What is your craziest I didn't expect to get laid today story? Story 1. I was drinking some beers and playing Dota 2 in my bedroom alone on Thanksgiving Eve. My roommate came home from a night of heavy drinking and collapsed into a room next door. Next thing I knew, a girl I had never met before walked by my door and headed for the bathroom. Before she got in, I said something like, "Oh, hey there, stranger. Feel free to use my toilet." She stopped, said something in response, and then used the bathroom. After she came out of the bathroom, I asked if everything came out okay. She assured me it did and left. About 5 minutes later, my roommate was slurring my name from her bedroom, so I walked in with some water, assuming that's what she wanted. Instead, she was on the phone with the girl who had used the bathroom. That girl had apparently gone to the store and bought some beers for us. After a few beers and some talking, I was suddenly with an extremely hot woman in my room. I did get an abandon in my game, but I told my teammates what was happening, and they said it was cool. Before we continue, do us a quick favor, smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. This was at a beach party at my friend's place, and I was the only single guy there. One of her friend's wives was incredibly attractive, and it made things a little tough because I really didn't want to be caught staring at a married woman. I was looking around for a place to sit when she offered me a spot on the towel next to her. I tried to play it off like I didn't notice, not wanting to risk making a move, but my completely oblivious friend called me out. "Dude, she's making a spot for you right there." So I sat down, and we started talking. It was very clear she was interested in me, and within 10 minutes I excused myself to head back toward the cars parked a little ways away, saying I needed to check my phone. She said she had to use the bathroom. A few minutes later, we were on the hood of her husband's cousin's car, about 500 yards from the party. For a short while afterward, I thought I was the worst person in the world until I realized she and her husband were into that, and he knew exactly what was going on. Story 3. I was really good friends with this guy in college. I guess I was 19 at the time. I never considered him a potential romantic partner. We were hanging out in my bedroom. Maybe there was a beer or two. I don't really remember much about the day overall. I had my favorite tunes playing, and we started talking about two mutual friends who were friends with benefits. I asked him, "Do you think you could ever do that?" There was something about the way he looked at me that made him suddenly so shy, and in that moment, I knew he liked me. He said, "Well, it really depends on the person I would be with." I replied, "I mean with me." About 10 minutes later, we were going at it. Then my mom walked in while we were in the middle of it and immediately ran out. Later, she said, "I am sorry I walked in. I just never expected you two to be doing it." I laughed and said, "Yeah, me neither." Story 4. I went out to dinner with a friend one night. She and I had hooked up a few times in the past, but it was always while drunk. I decided to give a proper date a shot, mainly to catch up, though banging was definitely an option. We had a nice dinner and a few drinks at the bar, and she drove me back home. I wasn't really feeling it, so I told her I was just going to get some rest for work in the morning. She was a little upset, but stayed cool with it. I got inside and popped open a beer, ready to play some video games and crash. I decided I wanted some pretzels, so I went to the car to hit the 7-Eleven around the corner and realized I had left my keys in her cup holder. I grabbed my spare, but the remote had a dead battery. I opened the door manually, which set off the alarm. Now I couldn't turn the alarm off or start the car without her bringing my key back. As I tried to find the fuse to shut off the alarm, the single mother next door came outside to see what was going on. She was annoyed but laughed at the situation. She waited with me outside while my friend drove the key back to my house. Once I was able to shut off the alarm and start the car, she suggested we celebrate by clapping each other. Just like that, we did. Story 5. I was at my brother's wedding in Finland, being a drunk, happy jerk. It was one of the few parties I've ever been to where I wasn't looking to get women at all. I was just thrilled to be with my family, whom I hadn't seen in almost a year, getting drunk at the top of a ski resort and eating amazing food. I got pretty drunk off the champagne, and we all partied until about 2 a.m. Eventually, we decided to wander off to the cabins to sleep. Some of us wanted to keep the party going, but I was ready to pass out. I went downstairs, picked a bed, and lay down. Then I thought, well, I should shower and change for bed. These suspenders and sunglasses won't be comfortable. So I went to shower. Afterward, I thought, I should go say goodnight to everyone. Some people are leaving early in the morning to catch flights back to America. I ended up smoking a cigarette with a cute Finnish girl who had been taking photos at the wedding. We shared a beer, and I told her I was going to bed. She said I was far too young for that, so we kept drinking. By 3 a.m., she was also feeling tired and wanted to know where the beds were. Being the perfect gentleman I am, I escorted the girl to the bedroom where I had put my things. The room had 3 beds and a lock on the door. I sat down on the bed I had chosen, and she locked the door and looked at me. Blame it on the booze or my ineptitude with women, but it was the first moment I thought, wait, does she want to sleep with me? She did, about 5 times that night. The flight back to America was somewhat uncomfortable because of how sore I was. She later told me it was adorable how oblivious I had been, which apparently made me incredibly attractive. Story 6. I work in a plant. During turnaround time, I was on the night shift in the lab when someone walked in to deliver a sample. The building was quiet. Several of my coworkers were asleep, so it was dead in the lab. He was very cute and enjoying the AC, so I wasn't complaining. He adjusted himself once or twice and caught me watching, joking about being bored and watching too many videos on his phone. I joked back about the dangerous tool he was carrying. Soon, I was seeing it up close and enjoying the taste. This became a regular occurrence during that turnaround whenever I was on the night shift. Story 7. When I was 18, I got a few pairs of cartoon-themed boxer for Christmas from my grandma. They were hilariously lame to me, but they were comfortable, and I wasn't about to go out and buy my own inners. So these boxers made their way into my wardrobe rotation. There were 3 pairs in total. I don't remember which characters were on the other 2, but the lucky pair was Looney Tunes. After I got caught wearing the Looney Tunes boxers during 3 different meetups with 3 different girls over the next year or so, I realized these had become my lucky boxers. Every single time I met up with a new girl, I happened to be wearing them. It wasn't like I wore these more than any of my other. They were washed in the same load of darks as all my other boxers. But somehow, inevitably, they were the pair I wore whenever a new girl wanted to be with me. I never realized I was wearing those particular boxers until someone pointed it out. The conversations all went pretty much the same way. The girl would ask, "Are these Looney Tunes?" I'd reply with an uncomfortable laugh. Yeah." She'd follow up with, "Why Looney Tunes?" And I'd say, "My grandma got them for me. They're comfy." The response was always either, "Ah, that's cute," or "Ha ha, that's funny." And then, well, we went to town. Story 8. I went on a first date with a girl in college. She lived in a nice housing complex on campus, and it was the Friday before spring break. All her roommates had already gone home for the vacation. After we got back, we were sitting on the couch having a semi-deep conversation. She excused herself to change into her pajamas and invited me into her room. When she saw me take her desk chair while she was in bed, she joked, "It's fine, you can sit on my bed. It's not like we're going to sleep together." Literally, about 3 minutes later, we started doing it. That was the only time I ever had a fling. It lasted about a month, but damn it, it was the highlight of my life. Story 9. I had just broken up with my first official boyfriend and was devastated. Being my first same-gender relationship, I felt depressed, so a few friends insisted I go clubbing with them. Sure enough, with only one of them not being gay, we ended up at a gay bar. The very idea of doing it with a guy made me shiver and shrink back, but I was coerced onto the dance floor for a song or two. I did not enjoy it, so I quietly stepped away and played a few rounds of pool with a random guy at the back of the bar. Later on, a bit buzzed from the beers someone had sent me, I noticed a girl sitting by the second-story rail at the edge of the dance floor, staring at me. She was pale, thin, tall, and a bit muscular, but with a very feminine face and features. One of the guys pointed out that she had been watching me all night. I got a note from a waitress, along with one more beer, asking me to go meet her, which I did. I have to admit, I am not into trans girls, though I would go crazy for a trans guy. I proceeded to check if she happened to have anything tucked out of sight, if you know what I mean. But there was no Adam's apple, just 100% English lady. By this point, we had already been getting close in a darker part of the bar for a while. She then asked if I would be okay with walking her to a cab and giving instructions to the driver to take her to her hotel, since her Spanish was terrible. Being a gentleman, I told her to forget it and that I would take the cab with her to her hotel. I pointed out that she didn't even need to invite me in. I was doing it out of kindness. This prompted a big kiss from her. Fast forward to her holding my hand when we got to her hotel and exited the cab, kissing me and simply saying, "You are going upstairs with me, mister." I was beside myself. We went in, did the deed, and I stayed for the night. Afterwards, she asked me to leave, as her group was about to go out on an expedition to some tourist attraction. It was just awesome. Story 10. This happened 2 weeks ago. There's this girl I've had a crush on for over 5 years. She's a tattoo model. I once tried adding her on Facebook and even sent her a message, but she never responded. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, I was meeting up with a friend who's been living overseas for the past 3 years and only comes home for Christmas. We were catching up over a beer when we decided to step into this bar on a slow Thursday night. Right away, these two guys start giving me trouble. The one leading the charge made some dumb remarks while I was ordering my drink, clearly trying to show off in front of this girl. But instead, she and I locked eyes. She waited until I had my drink and then asked if I smoked. I said yes, so the three of us, my friend, her and me, went outside for a smoke. We talked for maybe 5 minutes before she asked my friend if she could have a moment with me. As soon as he stepped away, she looked me in the eye and said, "I want to spend the night with you." I know it sounds unbelievable, but I swear it happened. Being the good friend, I said, "Well, I am with my buddy from out of town, and we were just planning a chill night. I hardly ever get to see him, but if you give me your number, maybe we can set something up another time." She wasn't having it. It was now or never, so I asked my friend to be a bro and let me head out with her. He came through, and I drove her home. When we got back to her place, she took off her jacket, and that's when I noticed the chest tattoo. That's when it hit me. This was the same girl I had been crushing on years ago. I kept my cool and went with it. She was into some of the same things as me, so we ended up having a great night. The next morning, she asked if I had Facebook. I told her how to find me, and she said, "Did you add me as a friend last night?" I laughed and said, "No, I added you 5 years ago. Check your messages." I told her I'd been wanting this for a long time and finally got the chance. She was happy she could help me cross off a bucket list item. I went back over last weekend for seconds, but since she lives about an hour away, it's not going to be a regular thing. Still, this turned out to be the most unexpected hookup I've ever had with the most unexpected girl. Story 11. I was working at the bar when I exchanged a quick glance and smile with a customer early in the night, but after that, she didn't look my way again. Later, when I got cut and headed out to drive home, I saw her waiting for an Uber. We made some small talk, and she told me she had ordered it to the wrong address, so it ended up getting canceled. Since her place was on my way, I offered her a ride home, and she accepted. We just made small talk in the car until the stoplight before her complex, when she suddenly called me handsome. When I pulled up in front of her place, we made out for about 15 seconds before she started to head inside. I got out, caught up to her, and pulled her into the gangway between her house and the next. We made out for about a minute, and things escalated. Afterwards, she looked at me and said, "That was hot," before adding that she didn't want to swap info, she'd just come by and hoped I'd be working so we could do it again. The next time was with a girl I worked with. We were always flirty, but she had a boyfriend, though they were constantly breaking up and getting back together. One day, I had a job interview, and after getting the offer, I met up with her and some others at a bar just after lunch for a celebratory drink. I was still in my suit. Later, we were talking in the car, and she mentioned they had just broken up again. She told me she liked the suit and that she was in the mood for it. I said, "Let's just go to a hotel right now then." She offered to drive. 5 minutes later, we were in a hotel bed. 2 hours later, I had missed my doctor's appointment. Honestly, the charge for missing the appointment was worth it. Story 12. This was with a friend from the bar. I stopped by the neighborhood bar near my house after having a few drinks. I said hi to one of my regular bartenders and grabbed a Diet Coke. I ran into someone I had seen there numerous times before. She seemed a little drunk and much more flirty with me than usual. I had quit smoking earlier this year, but I really wanted a cigarette, so we went out back for a smoke. She thought I had cigarettes. I thought she did, and we laughed about it. She complained about going on a blind date earlier that day and not having fun. Then she leaned in for a hug, and we started making out. I asked her if she wanted to come back to my place, and she agreed. Once upstairs, we made out more. She said, "I really shouldn't be doing this," as she lay down on my bed. We had a quick session, and afterward she started getting dressed and jokingly said, "I should get back. My date is probably wondering where I am." Story 13. I was visiting a friend who had recently moved to Washington, D.C., and he was having a housewarming party. We all got super drunk and went out to the bars. Somehow, I ended up at a bar by myself and was getting kicked out around 3 a.m. because it was closing. I started heading back, but quickly realized I had no idea where I was or how to get to my friend's place. He wasn't answering his phone, so I turned around and headed back toward the bar. I walked up to a couple of girls who were leaving. Honestly, I have no idea what I said, and the next thing I knew, I was in a taxi heading to one of their apartments. I am by no means a player, so I like to think this was a gift from my little guardian angel, keeping me from sleeping on the streets. Meeting the girls was really just the beginning of what would probably be the most interesting story I'd ever be part of. The three of us were in the taxi, heading back to one of their apartments, and both of them were getting a little excited. When we got to the apartment, I was handed another drink I really didn't need, but I barely had time to sip it. The girl who didn't live there pulled me into her room without hesitation, while the other girl stood in the doorway, drink in hand, watching. I was trying to wave the other girl over, but she just laughed and said she had a boyfriend. Not long after, a man walked in, and the two of them reunited a little before ending up at the doorway together. Except I quickly realized this wasn't the other girl's boyfriend, it was the husband of the girl who was with me right now. Crap, but the guy was totally cool with it, just watching. I was way too drunk to care. A little later, the three of us are in the husband's car, heading off to what turned out to be Maryland, about an hour and a half away. The wife and I were in the back, making out a little. When we got to their place, we headed straight to the bedroom. By this point, it had to be around 5 or 6 a.m., and after we were done, I passed out immediately. I woke up around 11. The girls were just waking up too, though it was obvious she had been waiting for me. Pretty sure the husband had slept on the couch. The wife was trying to say something I didn't quite catch, clearly hoping to start some morning after action. I asked, "Where's my phone?" She handed it to me after taking the liberty of replying to a message from a female friend, checking if I was alive with something like, "He's sleeping." I assumed she was hoping that friend was my girlfriend. She seemed like the type who'd like that sort of thing. Then she pointed me toward my clothes, or what was left of them. My clothes were folded neatly on the windowsill. Apparently, the husband had done my laundry after, well, banging his wife. I was feeling a little weird about everything that had just happened and needed to get out. Now, how do you think I was getting home? The wife told her husband, who had barely said a word the entire time, just staring at my feet, to drive me the hour and a half back to D.C. So the two of us drove back. When we got to my friend's place, I said thanks and walked inside. Thankfully, everyone was still asleep, so no one saw me being dropped off after disappearing for the night. Of course, the guys had to say a few things about my one-night stand, and I just went along with it. Until now, about 5 years later, I had never told the story. Story 14. If a blowy counts, this one happened at work years ago. I was stressed out, and my assistant suggested I go get a massage, recommending a legitimate place. It was a legit massage, but I think the girl working there was hitting on me. She kept complimenting me, saying how much of a pleasant surprise I was compared to the usual. She was very straightforward and asked if she could play with it. I repeatedly said that she shouldn't be doing this and could get in a lot of trouble. I never went back, but to this day, it was one of the best peak I've ever had. Story 15. I was working as a server at a restaurant, and a beautiful new hostess had recently started. One night, we both happened to be closing, and I told her she looked like how I would describe the perfect woman. One of the hostess' closing duties was cleaning the mirrors in the bathroom. I walked into the men's room while she was doing that. As I turned to leave, she told me not to. The next thing I knew, we were doing it. I came to work expecting tips, but I didn't expect to be giving anyone mine. Story 16. I was working the night shift in a hospital. The delivery room was quiet and calm, so I decided to stroll around. I ran into a female intern I often hung out with and smoked with during boring night shifts. While smoking outside the hospital, we started making out. She mentioned that the classrooms on the top floor were sometimes open and private. We went up, and one empty classroom was unlocked. We ended up banging on the floor. I definitely wasn't expecting that to happen that night. The floor was cold and hard, and my knees hurt afterward. We didn't get much sleep, but still, 10 out of 10, I would do it again. Story 17. It was a random Saturday in the summertime, around 1 or 2 a.m., and I was home alone just enjoying a night in when someone rang my doorbell. I freaked out at first, then realized it was an old hookup buddy I hadn't seen in a few months, completely trashed. He said he was driving through my neighborhood, really needed to use the toilet, and my house was the closest place he could think of. I took his keys, let him take care of business, and then suggested he hang out with me in my bedroom to watch TV until he sobered up. This wasn't a ploy. My bedroom was the only room in the house with decent AC at the time. We watched Netflix, talked, and eventually passed out in bed together. I woke up a few hours later to him under the covers, and things quickly escalated. We went back to sleep and did it again in the morning. Afterwards, we showered together and had breakfast, and that was the last time I ever saw him. Story 18. She was the hottest girl I'd seen in college, and we hit it off immediately as friends. She was dating other guys on and off all semester long, but the following semester she was mostly single, so we spent a lot more time together with mutual friends. One night at her place, her roommates were either gone or already asleep. She and I were on the sofa. She had her legs across my lap, and I was giving them a gentle massage, and slowly it kinda escalated. She stopped whatever conversation we were having, and at that point, the unexpected bang was inevitable. Next thing I knew, she was dragging me to her bedroom to put her to bed for the night. We both sat down on her bed. She wrapped her arms around me, and it was on from there. Amazing. Doesn't even begin to describe it. I'd never had it like that before or since. We just kept going, not getting tired, laughing at each other occasionally, completely relaxed, just enjoying the moment. We both fell asleep with her in my arms and a blanket covering us. Looking back, that was the best night's sleep I'd had in a long, long time. We continued seeing each other casually for a while, without the official dating label. Once we tried that, things got weird, so we went back to keeping it casual. It's been a long time since then. She's now happily married, has a kid, and is pursuing her dream job. She's still one of my best friends to this day. Story 19. I was having a lazy Sunday when a younger coworker called me out of the blue. Her bipolar stepfather was having an episode. He had literally thrown and smashed her computer and was still stomping around angrily. She was scared and wanted to get out of there, so I went and picked her up, bringing her to my place. She brought a couple of her favorite movies that she likes to watch when she's upset. Everything seemed pretty innocent at first. About halfway through the Aristocats, she snuggled up to me, resting her head on me with an arm around me. We decided to take a quick smoke break. The next thing I knew, we were doing it, and it turned into the best Sunday ever. Story 20. I went to have coffee with a friend on my way back from my parents' house. We met at Panera, talked for a while, and as always, there was an unspoken desire between us. But we had a time limit, so neither of us was expecting much. He asked if I wanted to get out of there with him. We left with the intention of at least making out before I had to go. We got in his car and drove to a quiet part of the parking lot behind a movie theater. After getting in the back seat and kissing, things escalated quickly. I was shocked he was willing to do it in such a public place, but the thought excited me. Before I knew it, I actually did it and didn't get caught. Story 21. One of the girls I went to high school with was playing a show, and I hadn't seen her in about 4 years, so I decided to check it out. After her performance, she insisted I have a beer with her. We started drinking and watching some of the other performers when she suddenly crouched behind me and muttered about 4 or 5 things under her breath. Then some guy came up and started trying to talk to her. It turned out he was her ex-boyfriend from about 2 weeks ago. I knew better than to get involved in business that wasn't mine, so I let them talk it out. He really wanted to speak with her in private and asked to go outside. He seemed nice enough, so I wasn't too worried. After about 20 minutes, I started to get worried, so I went out to check on them. As soon as I stepped out the door, I saw the girl running from her car, crying. I immediately ran up to the guy and demanded to know what had just happened. He looked worried and said he was just talking to her. I turned on my heels and hurried after her. I found her crying by a tree about a mile away. I talked to her, comforted her, and eventually we made our way back to her car. She asked if I could drive her home since she had apparently been drinking well before I arrived at her show. Once I got in the car and adjusted the seat, I heard a knock on the door. It was her ex. I rolled the window down, and he immediately started getting in my face, calling the girl names for going home with me. I am not the type to deal with conflict aggressively. I can usually talk anyone down, but this guy was clearly trying to hurt her. I got out of the car and told him, "Go the heck away, or there's going to be a problem." After a few tense back and forths, he finally got the hint and left. I got back in the car, and the girl grabbed me and immediately started making out with me. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You're gonna bang me tonight. God bless you, crazy ex-boyfriend." Story 22. I was crushing hard on this one girl, but she only liked me as a friend. No big deal. I decided to move on and stay friends. One night we were hanging out and she met my brother. They barely even talked. I honestly thought they didn't like each other until I told him it was time to go. He said he was leaving with her. I was pretty devastated. It was a while before we hung out again, but when we did, we ended up getting drunk. As the Uber was dropping her off, I finally met her mom. The mother gave me her number just in case. The next time I got messed up with the daughter, I was frustrated because she denied my advances again. She offered that I could sleep at her house, which only annoyed me more. I made my move on the mom, and it worked. Definitely the best bang I've ever had. Story 23. I expected to get physical that day, but I didn't expect where it would happen. I had married a girl from another country, and due to visa stuff, we were separated for a few months. When looking at flights to get her here, it made sense for me to pick her up at the international airport a few hours away, rather than waiting a few hours for a connecting flight to our city. You know, we'd be together faster. I am not sure why I didn't just get a hotel and drive back the next day. But anyway, her flight was delayed a few hours, customs was slow, and we didn't get out of the airport until late. We were both hungry, so we stopped at the first diner we came across, ate, and got back to the car, and we couldn't stay away from each other. Before long, we were doing it away in the parking lot of a family diner. The windows all fogged up when a cop knocked on the window. I think he was expecting young people, and we certainly looked the part, but he was shocked when he saw our IDs. We were both in our mid-20s. He noticed all the luggage in the back seat, let us go with a warning, and we started driving home. We pulled off at the first rest stop we came across to try and finish, but a trucker started looking through the windows, so we continued the drive home and finally finished technically the next morning. Story 24. I was competing at a college swim meet in Northern California and was walking back to my hotel room when I passed a massage place. The woman saw my tan and physique and asked if I was one of the swimmers at the meet. I told her yes, and she made this come here motion with her hands and eyes that I simply couldn't resist. She asked me if I'd like some massage, and having never gotten a massage before, I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to do it right there, but it was already too late. She looked shocked, but not badly shocked. It was an instant boost of confidence for me, as up until that time, only one girl had ever seen my thing. Anyway, we got to massaging. She kept telling me how beautifully tanned my skin looked. I started getting excited while lying on my stomach, but at an awkward angle, so I adjusted myself. She obviously noticed and started laughing. Then she said, "I can fix any problem you might have." I thanked her but said I was too tired, and she insisted she would do all the work. All the built-up from swimming that day made the offer impossible to pass up, so I let her do her thing, and I got a free massage. Story 25. I got invited to a D-backs baseball game downtown by one of my electrical distributors, outside sales reps. I hate baseball, but figured, screw it. It was free beer. We ate dinner first and talked business, then went into the stadium to watch the game. 2 innings in, I could feel a vibe between us. She asked if I wanted to leave and explore some bars downtown. We left and ended up kissing. She then asked if I wanted to get a room downtown for the night so we wouldn't be driving drunk. I had some of the best times I've ever had, and we've been in a solid relationship ever since. Thank you, crappy baseball teams. Story 26. I actually met up with a girl on 4chan once. I was 19 at the time and had just ended a 2-year relationship after my ex cheated. In the days following the breakup, I swore I wouldn't rush into a rebound. One night, I was browsing 4chan and stumbled across one of those post your area code threads. I never expected anyone to actually reply, other than maybe a bunch of dudes. Well, I posted, and within a few minutes, I had a response from someone claiming to be female. Naturally, I was wary, so I asked for an AIM or Skype to verify I was actually talking to a girl and not another guy. To my surprise, she was indeed female, and quite attractive as well. We started talking more, and I explained my situation to her. She had gone through something somewhat similar back at the campus she was attending and wanted to blow off some steam while home on break. Eventually, she asked if I wanted to go to the store with her or something. Even though it was late, around 1 a.m., and every crime drama I'd ever watched screamed, "No, you idiot. Don't get in a car with a random from 4chan, I said. Sure. She picked me up, and we went to Walmart to grab some cigarettes before heading to the pool near my apartment complex. The whole outing was playful and flirty, but I still didn't expect things to escalate that evening until she asked if I had any protection. Naturally, I did, though they were back in my apartment, so we went to get them. Back at my place, we ended up on my bed. Later, we moved down to the pool area and continued on the furniture there. As daylight approached, I walked her to her car, and we managed one more round inside it. We kept in touch for a while after that, but eventually drifted apart and stopped talking altogether. Still, it was a memorable night. Story 27. She was sitting alone across the bar on an unusually slow night. I was by myself, and when our eyes met, I thought, her boyfriend is a jerk. She gave me a silent, pleading look, and when a guy started annoying her, I stepped in and told him I was her boyfriend. Eventually, he backed off. We talked a bit, but the bar was dull, so we left together. She had her bike, and we walked to my car, chatting along the way. After saying goodnight and parting ways, the skies opened up just 5 minutes later. I spotted her a couple of blocks down the same road, soaked, so I threw her bike in my car, and she hopped in. We laughed at how drenched she was. Then, after a brief silence, she said, "Pull over somewhere." Now, what followed? Inside the car and out in the rain was amazing. The August heat making it perfect. Afterwards, I drove her home and paused, unsure what to say. She simply told me to turn off the car and come inside. And gladly I went in. Story 28. A few years ago, I was in a small town called East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. A few college friends and I, all graduates, were visiting and going to our usual bars. At our first stop, we noticed a German girl my friend kept talking to. He was persistent, but in the kind of way where he would just get sad, not aggressive, if turned down. We finished up at the first bar and headed to the next one, which ended up being our last stop. It was an Irish pub-type place that turned into more of a dance spot later at night. While waiting to get the bartender's attention, I was staring blankly at the wall behind the bar. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a few girls trying to get in just as I was handed my drink. Jokingly, in what I thought was an Irish or really just a random accent, I said, "All right, sorry, I am in the way." One of them immediately asked if I was Irish, in the cutest English accent I'd ever heard. I went pale because I thought she believed I was mocking her. I blurted out, "Oh God, I am so sorry." I don't know why, but in that moment, being from somewhere with an accent felt like it was some kind of handicap or something. Really, I was just awkward. My one friend was still trying to win over the German girl from the last bar, and the other friend I was talking to was in a happy relationship at the time. We were just standing there, hanging out and people watching. that same girl kept coming over to talk to me. I wasn't uninterested, but I was more in the mood to just hang out with the guys that night. The worst part was my buddy kept leaving me alone with her, barely 2 seconds into the conversation, so I kept getting stuck making small talk with someone I felt like I had just insulted. I ended up finding out quite a bit about her. She was from Liverpool, and apparently there's an organization in Europe that sends people to the United States for the summer to do a lifeguarding program. She and her friends actually preferred the American version of The Office. She even wanted me to take her to Poor Richard's in Scranton, which was only a few minutes from East Stroudsburg. As the night went on, I actually scolded my friend for leaving me alone with her. She was interesting and cute, but I just wasn't really in the mood. Later, we went over and she bought me a shot. I took it, and she clung to me pretty tightly. I wasn't used to that. I am not an unattractive guy by any means, but my personality is usually such a mess that women don't want much to do with me, and I guess that's why I tend to prefer being alone. Anyway, she got close to my neck and started breathing on me. I was, and still am, a bit inexperienced with women, but I knew where this was headed. My brain was saying, "Don't do this," but for the first time I just gave in. This was around 1:50 in the morning, and the place was closing in about 10 minutes. We ended up leaving, and she asked if I wanted to come hang out at the hotel with her and her foreign friends. I ended up going to the hotel for a little while. We made out a bit more, and eventually it led to us doing more. A few minutes in, her friends and whoever they'd picked up from the bar started pouring into the hotel room. I was really weirded out because I am usually a very private person. It turned out people in the other room were doing the same thing, so they could hear us and the people in the other room could hear them. You can kind of see how this all went. It wasn't a group thing for me, but there was definitely a pile of people just going at it for about 3 hours. I'd never experienced anything like that before, and I doubt it will ever happen again. A few days later, I texted her about Poor Richard's, but never got a response. I wonder if she was annoyed that I walked back to my friend's place around 5 in the morning. I wish I still had her contact info so I could look her up on Facebook. Story 29. I was working as a hostess at a bar and restaurant at about 9 p.m. A hot guy and a mutual friend were drinking, and the hot guy started flirting with me. Sometimes it bothers me to be hit on at work, but that night I was bored and feeling twirly, so I went with it. He asked if I wanted to go to a show with him after my shift. I said sure, I get off at 11, he said, and then a few more times before sunup, winked, and left the bar. When I came back at 11, I grabbed my coat. We went to a show and then back to his house. He told no lies, sirs and madams, no lies at all. I had the best time ever. As of 8:59, I had been planning to go home, smoke, and get a good night's sleep. Story 30. I was traveling at the time. I'd had a one-night stand with someone I met via couchsurfing, and it hadn't been very good. The whole thing was an ordeal. The next day, I was feeling a bit low and had a guys or jerks attitude, planning to avoid intimacy for a while. I was hitchhiking out of the town where the couchsurfer lived when a drop-dead gorgeous guy picked me up. In about 10 minutes, I'd forgotten all about the crappy events from the previous night, and I was having lunch with him. He ended up camping with me that night in the mountains, just outside of Denver, and we did the deed. He was my boyfriend for 2 years after that. I don't think in those 2 years I ever told him that I'd been with someone the night before. It had been a really romantic, awesome day, and I never wanted to dampen it with that kind of information. Story 31. Years ago, I met a girl in a bookstore. She was really cool, and what was supposed to be a 5-minute conversation about comic books turned into 3 hours. Of course, I asked her out before I left, but she said, "I am seeing someone, but we can hang out if you want." So yeah, we started hanging out. She told me she was gay, and her girlfriend lived with her. Cool. We could be friends without her significant other getting jealous. We have hung out for years. Her girlfriend leaves, she dates another, rinse, wash, repeat. We hang out at least once a week. The relationship is very sensual but not physical. It's all in conversation. We were both in our 20s, it was the 90s, and having a wingman of the opposite gender was awesome. One night, she tells me she has the Why Can't Tori Read videotape. Tori Amos in a metal band, pre-piano, so we load it up, curl up on the couch, and start watching. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary at that point. The next thing I know, she was getting close to me. That was her opener. She said she was curious. The time in bed was great and lasted most of the night. Nothing seemed to change in our relationship, apart from us doing it every 3 or 4 months, and any time a girlfriend of hers broke up with her. Story 32. The girl and I were doing a scene for a student theater company in college. We both had bit roles, and at one point during rehearsal, she said, "Let me see your phone," and put her number in it. I saw her a few more times, thought she was cute, and she invited me back to her place for dinner. She cooked me pancakes, which were okay for pancakes made in a dorm. Then she asked what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to cuddle, because I absolutely love cuddling. After a few minutes, we realized the couch was too small, so we moved over to her bedroom. I didn't go all the way because I was unprepared, both mentally and because I hadn't brought protection. I wasn't going to have my first time on a random Tuesday after pancakes. This woman is now known in my friend group as Pancakes. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.